The flames roared higher than any pyre should, licking against the alien-made steel that held him upright, his body silhouetted against the towering projection screens that carried the broadcast to every enslaved colony across the stars. The aliens had perfected this cruelty, executions not hidden in shadows, but magnified, recorded, replayed. Billions of human eyes were forced to watch as one of their own was erased, punished for daring to defy the order of their overlords. His name was not spoken aloud, not even once. To the aliens, he was nothing but a symbol, a warning, a voice to be silenced forever. Yet in the hearts of the humans watching, he was everything. In one broken colony outpost, inside a cold metallic hall packed with workers made to kneel before the giant screen, a woman stared with wide, trembling eyes. Her hands were pressed hard against her mouth, as though to keep her soul from spilling out with the scream she was biting back. She knew him, not as the soldier the world saw, not as the symbol he had become, but as the man whose smile once steadied her trembling hands, the man who whispered strength into her heart when despair threatened to crush her. She had loved him silently, fiercely, and now the universe forced her to watch him die. The fire engulfed his body, alien fuels burning hotter than human skin could endure, brighter than the sun to her eyes. His screams echoed across the colony broadcast, filling every crevice of the hall, shattering what little hope had survived the long years of occupation. The aliens meant for this to end resistance once and for all. No soldier, no rebel, no man could stand against them and live. She felt her knees weaken, her tears spilling faster. Around her, other humans looked away, some sobbing, some frozen, all broken by the sight. But she could not look away. She owed him at least this: to witness his final breath, to carry his memory, even if no one else dared. Her chest ached, every beat of her heart begging her to run to the screen, to reach across light years and rip him from that fire. But she was powerless, powerless to do anything but cry. And yet, something was wrong. Through the flames, through the haze of smoke, she saw it. A shimmer, a pulse of light not natural to fire. It clung to him, wrapping his body not in destruction, but in something almost alive. The aliens didn't seem to notice, their reptilian eyes unblinking as they carried out their execution. They thought he was gone already, another ash heap for their empire. But she saw it. His chest, scorched and broken, moved once more. His eyes, clouded with smoke, opened, not with human clarity, but with a strange, glowing fire, a spark not extinguished but transformed. The broadcast flickered. For a moment, the screen glitched, as though the signal itself were struggling. She gasped, clutching her chest, her tears momentarily frozen by shock. Across the hall, humans whispered nervously, not understanding what they had seen, dismissing it as interference. But she knew. She knew the way she had always known his breath before a kiss, the way his hand had always found hers in secret darkness. Something of him remained. Something had survived. His body fell forward in chains, slamming against the execution post with a sound that carried across the broadcast. The aliens declared him dead, their guttural voices translating into every human tongue. Rebellion ends in ash. The crowd in the hall bowed their heads as the overseers demanded silence. But her eyes never left the flickering screen, because she saw, in those last moments before the transmission ended, the impossible. His image didn't fade. The flames swallowed his body, but his outline lingered, woven into the signal like a ghost clinging to wires and frequencies. Her tears streamed harder, but now they carried something more than grief. They carried shock, hope, and terror all at once. Her heart hammered in her chest, as if it wanted to burst. She felt her lips tremble, whispering his name, even though she knew no one else dared speak it. If she was right, if what she saw was real, then he had not truly died. Not completely. Something inside him had defied even the alien fire. And though the hall emptied, though humans filed back to their cages and factories, she lingered before the screen long after it went dark. She could still feel him, faint as a breath against her ear, a whisper carried through static. It was madness to believe, madness to hope. But as her hand pressed flat against the cooling metal of the broadcast panel, she swore she felt a faint vibration, like a heartbeat hidden inside the machine. Her tears fell anew, but now they were no longer just mourning. They were a promise. If he was out there, trapped in the signal, lingering between life and death, she would find him. She would not let the aliens take evenness from her. They had shown his death to the universe to break human spirit. But for her, they had done the opposite. They had shown her a reason to fight, a reason to burn. And in the silence that followed, she whispered into the dark screen, "I saw you. I felt you. You're not gone. I will not let you be gone." Unbeknownst to the aliens who orchestrated the broadcast, their execution had failed in a way they could never predict. For the signal still carried him, burning quietly, hidden like a seed waiting to spark. And she, with her tears and her love, had already become the one person who could hear him. The colony was never quiet. Even at night, when the overseers retreated into their towering fortresses, the hum of alien machinery filled the air like an endless reminder of chains. Generators groaned, factory belts clattered, and the faint thrum of orbital drones patrolled overhead. Yet in her quarters, a rusted steel box of a room barely large enough to hold her bed, the silence felt heavier than any noise. She lay there curled on her side, eyes open, replaying the execution over and over until she thought she would break. Sleep had not come since that day. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his body wreathed in fire, falling forward, chains rattling like a death knell. Every time she tried to push the memory away, she heard his voice echo in her mind. Not screams, but the way he used to laugh, low and soft, the sound he had shared only with her. She had loved him in secret, loved him fiercely, and the aliens had torn him from her with cruel precision. Or so she thought. The first time she heard it, she thought she was going mad. A faint crackle, like static, seeped from the rusted wall panel above her bed. The colony was wired with alien conduits, energy lines carrying surveillance feeds, propaganda broadcasts, and orders. Sometimes they bled noise, bursts of sound no one paid attention to. But this was different. "Are you?" She sat upright, her breath caught in her throat. It was faint, almost too faint to believe. She pressed her ear to the cold wall, her hands shaking. "Hear me?" Her heart pounded. Her mind screamed that it was a trick of exhaustion, a hallucination born of grief. But her soul knew better. She would know that voice anywhere. Her lips trembled as she whispered into the darkness. "It's you." The static flared, warbling, before smoothing again, like a signal struggling to find its path. I don't know where I am. It's dark, burning, but I feel you. I feel you here." Her whole body shuddered, tears welling hot in her eyes. She pressed both hands flat to the wall, as if she could reach through it, as if she could pull him into her room by sheer will. "I saw you die," she whispered. "I saw the fire take you. How are you here?" A long pause. Then, the whisper of a breath, ghostly yet intimate, like lips brushing her ear. "They wanted to end me, but I lingered. In the fire. In the broadcast. I think I'm in the signal. And you're the only one who can hear me." Her tears fell freely now, soaking the collar of her thin shirt. She leaned her forehead against the wall, closing her eyes, pretending he was right there on the other side. "I thought I lost you," she choked out. "I thought they ripped you away, and her voice broke. "I can't live with that. Not when I never told you. Tell me now," he whispered. The words, simple as they were, pierced her. Her chest rose and fell with ragged breaths as she pressed her lips against the cold metal panel. "I love you," she confessed, the words tumbling out with years of buried hunger. "I loved you before they took you, before they made me watch, before the fire. I loved you every second I thought I lost you. And I love you now, even if you're just a ghost in the wires." Static hissed, then softened into something almost warm. And then she heard it, not just his voice, but the faintest echo of his breath. The sound of a man, so close she swore she could feel him. "Then I'll never let go," he murmured. "Not even death will take me from you." She pressed her lips harder against the wall, and for an instant, she swore the static itself bent to her, carrying back something electric, something that made her gasp like she'd been kissed. Her hand flew to her lips, trembling, her body alive with sensation that shouldn't have been possible. She fell back onto the bed, her eyes wide in the darkness, her breath coming fast. The air was charged, humming faintly like a lover's hand had just ghosted down her arm. Her tears ran again, but this time they were mixed with laughter, broken and breathless. He was here. He was alive, in a way that defied every law of nature. Night after night, she returned to the wall, speaking in whispers, pressing her lips against the conduit until the static bent and answered. Their conversations stretched through the hours, fragments stitched together through the alien network. He told her he could feel her heartbeat when she pressed close, that every word she spoke grounded him in the storm of energy that kept him adrift. She confessed her fears, her loneliness, her longing, and in return, he confessed his memories of fire, of pain, and of the only thing that kept him from letting go, her. Sometimes, when a connection flared brightest, she could swear she felt him in more than just sound. A phantom warmth brushed her cheek, the faint sensation of fingers trailing her jaw, the ghost of a kiss stolen across impossible distance. Each night, the intimacy grew, desperate, hungry, like lovers clutching each other through glass. The aliens had meant for his execution to crush her, to break every human who watched. But instead, it had given birth to something neither species could have predicted, a love stronger than death, burning bright through wires, static, and stolen whispers. And as she lay against the wall, whispering his name again and again until dawn came, she knew one truth as certain as her next breath. She would find a way to bring him back. Not as a ghost, not as a signal, but as flesh, as fire, as the man who was hers. The colony's shadows were dangerous, but she had learned to move through them like a ghost. By day, she kept her head low, blending with the weary masses under alien patrols. By night, she followed the whispers of the signal, letting his fragmented voice guide her. Each crackle, each pulse of static led her closer to a place the aliens never meant humans to find. It lay beneath the ruins of an old government building, long buried under rubble from the first invasion. Few dared venture there. Alien patrols circled the perimeter, and strange energy flickered under the ground, as if the soil itself hummed with unearthed power. But she had nothing left to lose. If the man she loved existed in the wires, his body had to exist somewhere too. When she slipped through the cracked foundations, she found a tunnel laced with conduits that pulsed like veins. The deeper she went, the warmer the air grew, carrying the sharp scent of ozone. At the bottom, behind doors of alloy that hissed and clicked with alien locks, she discovered the truth. The lab was not abandoned. Row upon row of cylindrical tanks glowed faintly in the dark, filled with liquid that shimmered like molten glass. Inside, human remains floated in fragments, limbs, torsos, skulls, preserved in stasis. These were the executed, the examples burned before the colony's eyes. Not gone, not ashes, but catalogued, studied, used. Her stomach twisted while rising to her throat. She pressed a hand against the tank nearest her and stared at the horror within. The aliens had never let their victims die fully. They had trapped them, dissected them, turned death into a resource. And then she saw him. The face she thought she'd lost forever. Scarred, charred, yet still undeniably his. The man whose voice had haunted the wires. His body was here, broken, incomplete, but preserved like all the others. Her hand trembled against the glass. "It's you," she whispered, tears burning down her cheeks. "I found you." Static flared suddenly from the walls, the conduits alive with sound. His voice, faint but urgent, burst through. "Don't look at me. I'm not whole." She pressed her forehead to the tank, her voice fierce through her sobs. "You're mine. Whole or not, you're mine. And I'm not leaving you here." The plan she hadn't known she carried took form instantly. She studied the consoles, the alien machinery, her fingers darting over controls she barely understood. Years of enforced labor in alien factories had taught her enough. The hum of circuits, the flow of energy. She broke seals, rerouted power, rewired conduits until the tank hissed open. His body, heavy and limp, spilled into her arms. He was warm, not dead, not cold, but warm, faintly glowing under her touch. She laid him on the floor, choking back a cry at the sight of burns and scars carved deep into his flesh. Yet the glow under his skin pulsed faintly, like embers under ash. Alive. Around her, alarms blared. She had minutes, maybe less, before the aliens came. Desperation sharpened her hands as she dragged cables from the wall, splicing them, plunging their ends into the strange wounds that shimmered across his body. The alien machinery sparked, crackled, and then roared to life. His chest convulsed. His eyes snapped open, glowing like molten fire trapped in human form. He gasped, a sound half human, half something else. The lab shook with the surge of energy, conduits burning bright as his body fused with the alien tech she'd stolen for him. "Breathe," she whispered, crouched over him, her hands gripping his shoulders as though her touch could anchor him to the world. "Come back to me. Please come back." His gaze found hers, flickering with pain, hunger, and recognition all at once. His lips parted, cracked, and trembling. "You pull me out." Her tears fell on his chest, sizzling as they touched his burning skin. She laughed and sobbed at once, cradling his face in her hands. "I told you I wouldn't let them keep you." He lifted a hand, unsteady but real, and touched her fingers. Heat surged through her, not just warmth, but a raw energy that hummed down to her bones. It was fire, but not destructive. It was alive like him. Her breath caught, her pulse racing as his hand lingered. His touch was both unbearable and impossible to let go of, searing yet tender. She felt her skin ache where he held her, and still she pressed closer. His eyes locked on hers, glowing brighter as though her nearness steadied him, as though she was the only thing holding the fire from consuming him. "I can feel you," he whispered, voice breaking. "Not just here, everywhere." She swallowed hard, unable to speak, her lips trembling. He was scarred, unstable, more flame than flesh, but he was here, alive, and his hand in hers felt more real than anything she'd ever known. Around them, alarms screamed. Alien boots thundered in the corridors above. But in that moment, there was no war, no fear. Only his heat, her heartbeat, and the undeniable truth she had stolen him back from death, and nothing would tear him away from her again. In the silence of the tunnels, the drip of water from broken pipes echoed like a heartbeat. The air was damp, heavy with rust and mold. But for her, it was safer than the colony streets above where alien patrols marched with weapons ready. She held him close in the shadows, her body pressed to his, and for the first time since she had watched him burn on that monstrous broadcast, she could feel him alive. Not entirely human anymore, not entirely stable, but alive. His skin glowed faintly, flickers of alien fire energy crackling along his veins, burning brighter when his breath grew ragged, softer when she pressed her lips to his cheek and whispered his name. He trembled as though fighting something inside. "I can't hold it back," he murmured, voice strained, almost static, as if the signal still lived in him. "This fire, it's not mine. It's theirs. Every moment I'm alive feels like theft." Her hands gripped his face, firm and unyielding. "Then let be theft. Let be rebellion. You're mine now, not theirs." He closed his eyes, and when her forehead touched his, the glow in his chest dimmed, steadied. It had become a rhythm between them. Her touch the anchor, her warmth the balance. Without her, he burned wild, unstable. With her, he became something almost whole. The tunnels creaked as alien footsteps clanged above them. Patrols moved closer, searchlights slicing through the cracks in the stone. Every shadow felt like a threat. Yet even as fear pressed in, their passion grew sharper, as though survival demanded not just food and shelter but closeness, heat, something only they could give each other. He kissed her then, fierce and desperate, a kiss that tasted of fire and ash and longing. She melted against him, her fingers tangling in his hair, her body molding to his scarred form. The glow flared, but instead of spiraling out of control, it bent to her, as if her very breath guided it. For one wild moment, the tunnels lit up with their embrace, the cracked walls glowing faint gold, before she pulled him deeper into the shadows. "I thought I lost you," she whispered, lips brushing his ear. "I thought I would only ever see you on those cursed screens, burning over and over in my mind." "You did lose me," he said softly, and for a second pain flickered in his eyes. "That man died. What you hold now? I don't know what I am." She silenced him with a kiss, her body pressing closer until words dissolved into heat. "You're mine. That's enough." Above, the aliens shouted commands in their jagged language, lights sweeping, searching. She held him tighter, their breaths mingling, their bodies clinging as if separation meant death. The danger only made the moment burn brighter. Every caress, every whisper, every heartbeat between them felt stolen, fragile, and infinitely precious. His hands roamed her back, trembling not with lust alone, but with fear. Fear of losing her, fear of his unstable fire consuming her. But she leaned into it, daring the flame. "If you burn," she whispered against his mouth, "then let me burn with you." The sound of patrol boots echoed closer. He stiffened, energy flaring in his chest like a warning beacon, but she pressed her lips to his, steadying him again. Their bond wasn't just survival anymore. It was rebellion, intimacy forged in shadows. Every embrace defied the alien masters. Every kiss promised a future they might never see but refused to stop fighting for. And as the footsteps passed above, fading into distance, he pulled her into his arms, holding her as if the world itself could tear them apart at any moment. In that darkness, hunted and trembling, their love burned brighter than any alien fire. The colony skies pulsed with static that night, the alien towers humming louder than usual, a storm of signal saturating the air. She felt it before the announcement came, the shiver of dread that raced through her bones like ice. Their bond, fragile, electric, alive in whispers, wavered as though someone was tugging it from the other side. She pressed her hand against the old comm panel in the tunnel wall, whispering his name, but instead of his soft reply, she heard laughter. Human laughter. It wasn't his. The broadcast cut across every screen in the colony, spilling into the tunnels, burning its way into her mind. There he was again, bound in the alien crucible, shackles glowing white-hot against his scarred skin. His body twitched under the energy restraints, the alien fire inside him flaring wild and unstable as the invaders jeered. And standing at the edge of the platform was a man she knew. A human, a collaborator. His face was hard, proud, as he addressed the enslaved masses. "This," he shouted, "is what happens to traitors who refuse the mercy of our new masters. This abomination tried to cheat death, to infect us with false hope. Watch now as even his fire bows to the will of those who own us." Her stomach turned. Betrayal. Not just by one man, but by her own kind, twisting the knife the aliens had driven through humanity's heart. She pressed a fist to her lips, tears blurring her sight as the camera focused on him, on the soldier she had saved, the man she had kissed in the dark. His face was a mask of pain, but his eyes still searched, as if across the screens and signals he was reaching for her. Then the torture began. They drove the alien fire deeper into him, amplifying it until his veins lit up like molten glass, his screams reverberating across every channel, broadcast into every home. Billions of humans watched. Some wept, some turned away, and some, broken, hollow, stared without reaction, too defeated to feel anymore. The aliens wanted this. They wanted to carve despair into every heart. She shook with fury, fingers digging into the stone wall of the tunnel until blood ran from her nails. She wanted to shut her eyes, to block it out, but she couldn't. Every scream from him struck her like a blade. Every flash of fire from his body burned into her chest. He was alive, barely, and they were parading his suffering as if it were entertainment. "Look at me," he rasped on the screen, his voice broken, his body writhing against the restraints. For a heartbeat, she thought the words were for the audience, for the enslaved humans across the colonies. But then his gaze shifted sharp, piercing, burning through the broadcast. "Look at me." Her breath caught. He was talking to her. Somehow, even through agony, even through chains and static, he found her in the crowd of billions. His eyes held hers across the impossible distance, and she felt the bond spark alive again, faint but unbroken. The collaborator sneered, stepping closer to the camera. "You see? Even now, his fire dims. He cannot fight what is inevitable. Humanity will kneel, or humanity will vanish." Something in her snapped. She tore her gaze from the screen and slammed her fist into the comm panel, shattering it. The betrayal didn't matter anymore. The aliens didn't matter anymore. Fear didn't matter. All that filled her veins was fire. Not his unstable alien flame, but her own, raw and human. She whispered into the dark tunnel, her voice steady despite the tears streaking down her face. "I will not watch you die again. Not like this. Not while I breathe." Above her, the colony buzzed with the sickening broadcast. Humans shuffled through the streets, their faces pale blue from the glow of alien screens. And in every home, every square, every corner of the Empire, his suffering burned into memory. She clenched her jaw, a vow solidifying in her bones. She would free him, no matter the traitors, no matter the aliens, no matter the cost. Even if she had to tear apart the very towers that carried their signal, she would shatter their spectacle. The broadcast raged on, but her tears dried. Her fear turned to iron, and her fury became a blade. The night she moved against them, the sky itself seemed to burn. Searchlights cut through the colony streets. Alien patrols slithered and stalked with mechanical precision, and the collaborators' words still echoed in the air. But she didn't feel fear anymore. Her heart was a war drum, her breath steady. Every step toward the alien stronghold was a vow hammered into existence. She would reach him. She would tear him from their chains. She would not let them extinguish the fire that was his and hers alike. The stronghold rose above the ruined city like a jagged spear, humming with alien energy. The broadcast towers pulsed at its peak, dripping waves of control into every home. But deep inside, she knew he was there, bound, suffering, waiting. Her fingers brushed the stolen detonator at her hip, the knife hidden beneath her sleeve. They were nothing compared to the storm inside her. Slipping through vents, cutting down a guard with silent precision, weaving past the glow of surveillance drones, she was a shadow with a single purpose. The deeper she went, the stronger the pull became. It wasn't just instinct, it was him. His presence thrummed faintly in her veins, guiding her through the labyrinth of alien steel. When she reached the chamber, her breath caught. He was suspended in a crucible of chains, the alien flames inside him bursting and recoiling against his body, scarring flesh that could not heal. Every few moments his back arched, a guttural cry, escaping as arcs of molten light ripped from his skin and lashed against the restraints. The air stank of burning metal and blood. His head hung low, sweat and fire dripping in equal measure, but even through the haze of agony his eyes flicked open and found her. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. "You came," he rasped, his voice a raw ember. She ran to him, heedless of the sparks that scorched her skin as she reached for his face. "I'll always come." Her fingers brushed his cheek, and the wild fire recoiled, shrinking back from her touch as though it knew her. He shuddered, chains rattling as his body fought between collapse and eruption. Alarms blared. The aliens had noticed. Doors hissed open as armored guards surged in. She didn't flinch. With a cry that was equal parts fury and promise, she drew her blade, striking fast and savage. She was no soldier, but love and rage made her hand sure. One alien fell, then another. Sparks showered from the crucible as she slammed her stolen detonator into the chain controls. Metal snapped, Flames roared, and he collapsed forward in her arms. He was burning hot, his skin blistering to the touch, but she held him tighter, kissing his lips even as the fire seared her mouth. For a moment she thought she would burn away, but instead, something else happened. The unstable energy inside him surged, then softened, flowing into her as though her very body was a vessel made to steady it. Their kiss deepened, frantic, desperate, tasting of ash and blood and eternity. He clutched her, trembling, pressing his fevered body against hers. Around them, the chamber burned, alarms screaming, alien soldiers closing in, but none of it mattered. Her closeness was saving him, pulling him back from the brink. "You anchor me," he gasped, forehead pressed to hers as the flames in his chest flickered steady for the first time. "Then hold on to me," she whispered, dragging his face to hers again. Their lips crashed, their bodies fusing in the chaos. Every touch was salvation. Every kiss tamed the fire that threatened to consume him. Chains clattered to the floor as he rose with her arms around him, his fire no longer wild, but pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Together they fought their way through the stronghold, but it wasn't just survival anymore. With every clash, every strike, every stolen kiss in the midst of battle, their bond grew stronger. His flames lashed out, not in chaos, but in harmony with her movements, shielding her, striking down their enemies, carving a path through steel and shadow. By the time they reached the outer walls, smoke and ruin stretched behind them. He staggered, his body still glowing faint, but when she pressed her lips to his neck, whispering his name, the fire steadied again. He lifted her, kissed her hard enough to taste eternity, and whispered back, "With you, I am whole." And for the first time since his execution, he truly was. The broadcast tower rose like a black spear into the smoke-stained sky, its alien glyphs pulsing with cold rhythm. For years, it had been the weapon of their masters, a voice of terror transmitted to every corner of the colonies. It had shown his execution, his burning death, the moment meant to break humanity forever. Now, as he stood at its base with her hand gripping his, the fire within his chest crackling against her pulse, he knew it would show something else. They moved like storm and shadow, slipping through the city streets where frightened colonists peeked from broken windows. Rumors whispered ahead of them. He was alive, she was with him, and the fire had not been quenched. Every step drew more eyes, more hearts rekindled with dangerous hope. And when the tower doors groaned open before them, guarded by alien soldiers in armor that shimmered with eerie light, he didn't hesitate. The flames inside him burst forth, not wild, not unstable, but sharpened by her nearness. He roared as his fire carved through metal and flesh, the aliens shrieking as molten heat engulfed them. She was at his side, her blade cutting down any who slipped past his storm. Their eyes met often, between strikes, between breaths, each look an oath. We fight together, we burn together, we live or die together. At last they reached the core, a cavern of humming machinery, the great transmitter looming above. It pulsed with sickly alien energy, an organ of oppression pumping fear across the stars. He staggered, gripping the console, fire dancing around his arms as if drawn to the current. "This is it," he said, his voice a low, burning growl. "I can send a signal. Not theirs. Ours." She touched his chest, feeling the fire quiver under her palm. "Then let them see us. Let them know love is stronger than chains." The machines resisted, alien circuits screaming as his flames poured into them. Sparks showered the chamber, power surging through cables and screens across the colonies. Every home, every labor camp, every prison cell, the alien broadcast flickered, then shifted. And there he was. Billions saw him standing scarred, his body glowing with fire that no execution could erase. His eyes burned with a light both terrible and human. And beside him, they saw her, fierce, unbroken, her hand entwined with his, their bodies pressed together, as if to show the universe they were one. "This fire you cannot kill. His voice thundered through every screen, every speaker. You try to bury me. You try to burn me. But I live because she would not let me die. Because love is stronger than your cruelty. Humanity will not bow. Humanity will not break. We rise. She stepped forward, her voice raw but steady. We are more than your slaves. We are not afraid anymore. Look at us. Together we are fire. Together we are freedom. Rise with us. Their words were not polished speeches, but something more dangerous. Truth. Passion. Defiance. In the moment they sealed, it was not with another threat or demand, but with a kiss, raw, desperate, fierce. Billions watched as his fire surged into her, and hers steadied him, their lips locked, their love unhidden, unashamed. It was more than intimacy. It was rebellion itself. Across the colonies, the effect was immediate. Shackled workers dropped their tools. Prisoners lifted their heads. Mothers, fathers, children saw not execution but resurrection, not despair but hope. The first cries of revolt echoed, growing, multiplying, until the colonies themselves trembled with the weight of awakening humanity. The aliens panicked. Warships descended, their guns blazing. Soldiers stormed the broadcast chamber, but they were too late. His fire erupted skyward, striking the incoming ships. She clung to him as the tower itself became a weapon, flames twisting upward into the heavens. Human colonists surged into the streets, emboldened by the vision of him and her together, striking the alien patrols with rocks, blades, stolen rifles, anything. The rebellion was no longer a whisper. It was a storm. Above, alien warships burned, their hulls melting under waves of fire. The sky lit with explosions, and for the first time in years, it was not humanity's cities that burned, it was the enemy's fleet. At the heart of it all, the broadcast still streamed, showing him and her locked in each other's arms, fire and flesh and defiance woven together. To billions, it was no longer just two lovers. It was a promise, an image that would never be erased. Humanity rising from execution, kissing death into life, and turning chains into flame. The revolt had begun, and nothing could stop it now. The battlefield smoldered, a vast plain of wreckage where alien warships lay cracked and burning. Smoke drifted into the reddened sky, turning the horizon into a haze of fire and shadow. The cries of victory echoed across the colony streets, not the terrified silence of slaves, but the defiant voices of the newly unshackled. Humanity had risen, and the cost was written in blood and ash. He stood at the center of it all, his body scarred from countless battles, his form wreathed in an aura of living fire. His eyes blazed like molten embers, no longer entirely human. The fire within him was both beautiful and terrible, a force that even he did not fully control. When he moved, the air shimmered. When he breathed, sparks drifted like falling stars. Many feared him now, even as they adored what he symbolized. But then she stepped to his side. Her body was marked by the struggle. Cuts, burns, exhaustion. Yet her presence glowed fiercer than any flame. She touched his hand, her skin meeting his burning heat, and instead of recoiling, she held on. His flame stilled, bending to her will. The colony saw it, the rebels saw it, and even those who had once betrayed humanity saw it. Whatever he had become, she remained his anchor. "Look at them," someone whispered in the crowd. "He died before us all, but she brought him back." Her gaze lifted to his, and in it was no fear. Only love, only certainty. The world might see a legend, a weapon, a monster reborn in fire, but to her he was still the man whose voice had whispered through static, whose kiss had carried him back from death. She brushed her hand against his face, scarred and glowing, and he closed his eyes as if her touch alone was the one thing that reminded him he was still human. Around them, the survivors began to kneel, not in submission but in reverence. They had watched his execution. They had seen his death, his ashes. Now, before their eyes, he stood resurrected, and not by alien power, not by machinery, but by love. What was meant to be the alien's greatest humiliation of humanity had become its greatest legend. Tears still stained her cheeks, but they were not the same tears that had fallen when she first saw him burned alive on the broadcast. Then, they had been the tears of helpless grief. Now, they were tears of awe, of joy, of knowing that her love had written itself into history. She whispered to him, soft enough that only he could hear, "The world saw your death, but I saw you return to me. That's the truth they'll never erase." He drew her against him, flames flaring but never harming her. Their embrace burned itself into the eyes of everyone watching. For billions across the colonies who had tuned in expecting despair, this became the final broadcast. Not execution, not torture, but the image of a man and woman holding each other in victory, their love burning brighter than the ashes of war. Word spread like wildfire, carried by mouth and by signal, across planets and stations. They became more than two rebels. They became symbols, woven into the myths whispered by children who had grown up under alien rule. Stories began at once. How his fire was not born of alien cruelty, but of human passion. How her kiss had kindled a rebellion. How their love had turned death into immortality. Some even began to call them the eternal flames. That night, as the fires of battle dimmed and the survivors gathered, she lay beside him amid the ruins of what had once been the alien command tower. The flames that never left his body flickered low, calm, as if he too could rest in her presence. He turned to her, his voice low and hoarse. "I'm not the man I was. I don't know what I am now." She traced her fingers over the scars on his chest, feeling the heat that pulsed under his skin. "You're mine," she said simply. "That's all you need to be." For the first time since his death, he smiled. It was faint, broken, but real. The night sky was no longer dark with alien warships. It was open, vast, scattered with stars. He held her, and she held him, and neither needed words to know the truth. What had begun as grief had become a legend. He had given his life for Earth. She had given hers for him. Together, they had turned chains into fire, fear into defiance, and tears into something no invader could kill. And in the silence after the storm, humanity whispered their names like a prayer, not as victims, not as slaves, but as lovers who had burned brighter than any empire and who would be remembered for eternity.